The federal Liberals will need to find a new leader and soon, following Justin Trudeau's announcement yesterday that he'll be stepping down. It's widely believed they will try to have someone in place before Parliament resumes on March 24th. But whoever replaces Trudeau will have to contend with Donald Trump's threats to Canada, including economic pressures designed by the incoming president to try to force Canada's hand into becoming the so-called 51st state. For more on all of this, I want to bring in the CBC's Aaron Weary in Ottawa. Another strange day, Aaron, and a busy one. So it's less than 2 weeks until Donald Trump is sworn in again as U.S. president. He spoke about what I was just summarizing. Let's just listen.
You had suggested.
Listen, I don't care what he says.
But Sir Lopez, you said you were considering military force to acquire Panama and Greenland. Are you also considering military force to annex and acquire Canada?
No, economic force, because Canada and the United States, that would really be something. You get rid of that artificially drawn line, and you take a look at what that looks like, and it would also be much better for national security. Don't forget, we basically protect Canada.
So, Aaron, I mean, this feels like a more expansive, amped up language. I mean, you tell me what you think, but how seriously should any aspiring candidate for Prime Minister of Canada be taking statements like that from Trump?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can't help but take it seriously.
Yeah.
We already know that he has made that threat to impose tariffs. He continues to make these comments about Canada and the 51st state. It's was started or at least originated as a joke. Who knows what level of seriousness he's applying to it now. But you can't, help but respond to it if you're a political leader, because Canadians are going to be looking for some kind of response. And it's going to be a litmus test and a factor in any Liberal leadership race. The question of how to deal with Donald Trump is going to be a major factor. It's a major question for the opposition leaders. It's a major question for the premiers. It's unavoidable, as unavoidable as our relationship with the United States is.
And Trudeau has responded. He tweeted, "There isn't a snowball's chance in hell that Canada would become part of the United States," saying that workers and communities benefit. And we heard from Mélanie Joly say that we will stand up, I'm summarizing, but we will stand up against any threats. I mean, is that enough?
It's hard to know what is enough, I suppose. I do think we are seeing a shift from, if you go back to even the first Trump term from 2017 to 2021, there was this feeling that Canadian leaders needed to kind of avoid picking fights unnecessary fights with the Trump administration, wading into American politics. I think we're now at a point where sort of trying to play nice and trying to offer practical solutions isn't necessarily what, political leaders think they need to do or what Canadians are looking for. I think you saw that, most strikingly from Ontario Premier Doug Ford yesterday with his comments about, well, maybe we'll buy Alaska and Minnesota. I think there is now an appetite or a desire for, some kind of responding in kind. We can't necessarily win a tit for tat, battle with the United States, but there does seem to be a desire for some kind of stronger response. And I think, in a way, Justin Trudeau not having to worry about re-election, not having to worry about his own political fortunes, is maybe slightly more unencumbered now to kind of, fire the odd tweet back.
Because, Aaron, I think it's kind of the narrative is sort of changed. It seemed as though, maybe this was about Justin Trudeau and Donald Trump not really liking the Prime Minister, and so maybe that's what it was all about. But now Justin Trudeau is stepping down. Maybe Donald Trump is using this as a moment because he senses some vulnerability, some weakness. But even with Pierre Poilievre, he said, "Oh, well, I don't know whether he'll be the leader, but yeah, we would be more aligned." It doesn't really seem to matter, though, to Donald Trump. I mean, these threats, whoever is Prime Minister of Canada, these kind of threats, it's just not something that you normally hear from an incoming American president.
Right. I think that's a good point. If you go back to when Donald Trump was first elected, there were these concerns about, oh, well, you know, he doesn't seem to really like Justin Trudeau. Can they get along? Oh, he doesn't really like Chrystia Freeland. You know, should she be involved in this? I think you may be seeing that it's not really about personal relationships necessarily, so much as it is about his kind of general swagger and approach to, you know, other countries, to other parties, to his own power and desire to use it, his own kind of willingness to sort of poke and prod and see what he can sort of get out of situations. You know, this really is, it is probably a reminder that whoever is prime minister, and we may have a couple in the next little while, is going to have to face probably the same situation, that Donald Trump is who he is, and he's going to behave as he does, and that is a massive question for Canada, you know, practically in policy terms, economically, politically, socially. It's a massive challenge, and that's something we're going to have to deal with one way or another.
I wonder what it is that's sort of, you know, motivating. I mean, I'm not going to get you to get into the head of Donald Trump, but motivating this kind of language, this kind of, I guess people can characterize it the way they want. I know there's a percentage of Canadians that like the idea. I think it's about 13%, something like that, according to a survey I saw a few weeks ago. The vast majority of people are not interested in becoming the 51st state. So to many people, this kind of rhetoric would be offensive. It would be insulting.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's worth pointing out that, you know, we're not necessarily alone in this regard. You know, Denmark right now is having to deal with the fact that he seems to want to buy Greenland. So I don't know that it's necessarily specific to Canada. It's, I think, specific to Trump. And it is, I think the reaction of the Canadian public is going to be fascinating to watch. Because as you say, there are Canadians who support, not necessarily support, but, you know, don't think Donald Trump is necessarily a bad thing. There are Canadians who will struggle with the idea of how to respond, how Canada should respond. And then I think there is, you know, the other thing we may have to watch out for here is simple anti-Americanism that we have seen in Canada at various points in history. And how does this, you know, antagonism, do these comments, do these kind of disrespectful, kind of demeaning language, does that just revive that feeling? You know, we've seen Canadian public opinion on the United States kind of swing pretty dramatically depending on who's president. So that's, you know, I think you were always kind of going to expect a bit of that, but I don't know that we've ever had to deal with a situation quite like this and, you know, the kind of language we're hearing. And I think the effect that has on the Canadian public is something to watch for, and you can be quite certain it's something that all of the federal party leaders and aspiring federal party leaders are thinking about right now.